the key is, and this is one of the most important things for a happy life, is a partnership with somebody who will be the last person on whom you lay your eyes as you take your dying breath. That's really, really important. A companionate love that is your wife. That's all.
Yeah.
That turns out to be much more indicative of your happiness than actually getting developing and having a continuing relationship with your kids, because your kids are turning into different people every single year. I mean, that's super fun and that's super interesting, but that's actually not the key. The people who suffer the most from empty nest syndrome is not the empty nest. It's the fact that they're only with one other bird and they don't really like that bird very much. That's the real problem, is when it comes in. And that's one of the things that I talk about with my students. And by the way, I'm doing lots of executive teaching these days. And it's what I'm talking about with people our age too, is the goal of your marriage is not passion, it's friendship. This is the goal. You must be close friends, ideally best friends with your spouse, such that your kids, they grow up and they move away, and then you have your grandkids. I'm probably going to have grandkids within my oldest son is married, and they're going to have kids quick, I bet. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can tell that I'm projecting and praying about this, but then I'll have grandkids, and then it'll be a different experience. But I'm going to be with my wife Esther until death do us part. So that has to be the juice of who of the relationship, where the love that actually makes true happiness, and love truly is the great secret of happiness.
Yeah, I mean that's the one saving grace, is as I feel very fortunate that my wife and I are. We joke that we're the best roommates in the world, right? And so I think we'll have a lot to enjoy in that transition. Is the implication of that, though, Arthur, that because I don't think it is, but how do we reconcile then a person who chooses not to have a partner?
Yeah. So the key is there are some people who do really, really well on their own. That introverts who like to live alone, for example, and loneliness is not the same thing as solitude. Isolation and solitude are very, very different phenomena. By the way, they're neurocognitively different phenomena. They affect the brain in different ways. And so isolation is always bad, but solitude is not. As a matter of fact, we all need it. We need it at different levels. That's point one. Point two, and actually this is based on the Harvard study of adult development.
And sorry, just to interrupt you for a second, Arthur, you can be lonely in a relationship.
Oh, for sure.
You can be in solitude and not be lonely.
Absolutely. One of the greatest predictors of divorce is partners who are lonely while living together. And this gets back to the big danger of the empty nest syndrome, is that the only thing you have in common is your kids. And that one point of commonality disappears, and you're sitting across the table blinking at each other during dinner, not talking, because you literally don't have anything to talk about. That's metastatically awful for a relationship. And so that's why it's critically important that couples have something in common besides their kids, that they're practicing their religion together, they're practicing interest together, they're reading the same things, they're on the same philosophical journey together. I mean, one of the things that I talk about with couples is that they should develop philosophical interests in common. They're talking about deep things, and so the gold standard is that your kids are like, mom and dad are talking about Kierkegaard again, or whatever. I mean, it's got to be something that's bigger than did you change his diaper, because that's not going to be something you have in common forever, and you're going to be lonely inside your relationship. The second big point, however, is that whereas most of the truly happy people, as they get older, they do have a spousal partner where that's companionate in terms of its love, which also has some passion. But the companionate part is ascendant throughout, throughout your marriage, whereas the passion part is not as high as it used to be. And that's completely okay. That's healthy, normal, and actually advisable, because it's more sustainable over the long run. But some people are very happy and don't have that. What do they have in common? Very, very close, personal, lifelong friends. So here's the key. If you don't have a spouse, you need real friends. These are people who know your secrets, who would take your 2 a.m. phone call, and that you talk to a lot. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're married, you don't need that. Because when I talk to especially men are horrible at real friendships. They're the worst. They got lots of deal friends, but no real friends a lot of the time, especially if they're really successful in business. And so I'll say, okay, name 2 guys or whoever who are real friends besides your spouse. And they're like, yeah, so-and-so and so-and-so. I'll say, well, when's the last time you talked to him? It's like, I don't know, 4 months ago. Not a close friend. That's just the case. And so you got to work on these things for sure, for a lot of reasons besides the fact that it's just healthy and good. You also might at some point be left alone if you're widowed. And you don't want to be alone in the world under those circumstances. That's really corrosive. That's one of the reasons that men do so poorly when they lose their wives to death, because a lot of them don't have real friendships to backfill any of this need in their souls.